Thank you, Maya, for this opening remarks. I think this sets the discussion background for the Indo-Swedish Smart Grid workshop today. There are a few points before the presentations are on, which I would like to make. The concept of the smart grid has been talked about in India for a long time, and the utility and the importance of this is now well established. Now, what is required to be, I would like to pose before you, and I also like those who make the presentations to actually address these issues, are some of the challenges which are there before, and I categorize them into three: the challenges for the smart grid, challenges for the non-conventional energy, and also the challenges for the mini grid and the micro grids, which is the latest development in the country. Now, regarding the challenges in the smart grid, everybody understands the utility and the usefulness of the smart grids, the usefulness of the smart meters. But the challenges are two. One of course, is the technological, that how do we actually have a technology which is cost efficient? Because in our country, as you know, the power structure, especially the power distribution structure, is cross subsidized. There is a concept of cross subsidy. People who can afford to pay more, and the people in the villages, people with a lower income group, they pay less, and there is a concept of the cross subsidy. So, how much and to what extent the cost can be borne by them is a very important question, and therefore the technology which brings in a cost efficient system is a very important priority for any smart solutions to the grid efficiency. The other issue which I think is very, very important is the financial mechanism. Everybody understands that it is important to bring in the concept of the smart grids, the smart meters. But the issue is, because most of the discoms all over the country are in financial distress. They have problems of liquidity, they have problems of profitability, and therefore it's an issue for them that how do they actually get into this. So therefore, can we have a financial mechanism in which the cost is shared between the project proponent, between the discoms and the consumers, in such a way that it does not give them any tariff shock, because whatever is the capital investment, eventually that is passed on to the consumers. So could there be a mechanism on that basis? The other alternative could be, as has been tried here in this country very recently, as you may be aware, that the LED lights were introduced in India, and it was a huge success. The reasons for the success was the one, that because of the economies of scale, when the whole country it was taken up, because of the economies of the scale, the prices came down substantially, and people therefore they were willing to accept it. That was one. The other was a mechanism in which the cost of the bulbs were recovered in installments from the bill of the consumers, and therefore it was eventually no cost to them, because whatever was the cost was suppose spread over a few years. So the cost in the savings in their electricity costs, that will setting off the cost, additional cost of the LED lights. So can we have a mechanism of that sort introduced in the smart grid technology? That's a point that has to be addressed. We need to address that, and I hope that people who present this, if possible, would also throw some light on this. Similarly, I saw somebody was, I think, wanting to make a presentation on the non-conventional energy, especially the solar. Again, the same. The challenge in the non-conventional energy is that the cost of the solar is still very high in the country. Of course, it has come down over the last few years. So it has to be at a parity, at par with the conventional power. Just now it is supported by the subsidy from the government of India and some other sources also. Some of the state governments have also pitched in the money. But that's a temporary phenomenon. At some point of time, these crutches will be withdrawn. So how to make it viable? That's a question again from the technology point of view, how to make it cost efficient and how to bear the cost. And the other point is, which has been raised here by somebody, that what do we do regarding the integration of this with the main grid. That is an issue which also has to be looked into. The third issue, which is also very important, is regarding the mini grids and the micro grids, which in a country like India is of great relevance. And in the mini grids and the micro grids, how come the concept of the smart grid can be introduced, maybe in a small manner, maybe partially, but which is in consonance with the actual paying capacity of the consumer. So this is some of the points which I think everybody has to bear in mind when we are talking about the smart grids and smart meters. There is a, in fact, Maria spoke about the pilot and demonstration units. In my opinion, that stage of pilot and demonstration units is actually we have crossed in this country. We have already, the consumer, the discoms, the generators, everybody is convinced there is a need for the smart grid. And I think there is a time in which we can introduce the concept of the smart grid in a big way, on a bigger scale in the entire country, so that we get the advantage of economies of scale. So these are the few thoughts that I wanted to share, and I wanted to say this upfront so that when we are interacting and when the people who are making the presentations here, the companies which are making the presentation, keep this also in mind and if possible address these issues. Thank you.